Welcome to the UCM Interface Bible Study dito sa 702 DZAS FEBC Radio TV, Agapay ng Sambayanan. Isa itong conversational expository Bible study program hatid sa inyo ng UCM Interface, ang Young Adults Ministry ng Union Church of Manila. We do our best to study context and let Scripture speak for itself. Ang programang ito ay isang teaching ministry ng Union Church of Manila, a church of many nations committed to making disciples who are transformed by the gospel of Jesus Christ.
This is Gooch.
And I'm Rainier.
And this is Ben.
All right. We are going to be discussing chapter 5 on this episode. But before that, let's see what happened previously on Esther 4.
Makita natin that this chapter was bracketed by a very popular spiritual discipline among the Jews, and that is fasting. It started with Mordecai fasting, and then it ended with Esther calling everyone, inviting everyone, all the Jews to join her in her fasting. This is really all about the response of someone who is helpless, but also the response of someone who has learned to identify with the people of God. And when you identify yourself with the people of God, you are identifying yourself, of course, with God. And when you do that, you will learn to value the life of other people also, because you will see that this is the purpose of your life.
Okay. And now we go to chapter 5. Why don't we go through our reading? And here we go.
Esther 5. On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the palace, in front of the king's hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne in the hall, facing the entrance. When he saw Queen Esther standing in the court, he was pleased with her, and held out to her the gold scepter that was in his hand. So Esther approached and touched the tip of the scepter. Then the king asked, "What is it, Queen Esther? What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom, it will be given you." "If it pleases the king," replied Esther, "let the king, together with Haman, come today to a banquet I have prepared for him." "Bring Haman at once," the king said, "so that we may do what Esther asks." So the king and Haman went to the banquet Esther had prepared. As they were drinking wine, the king again asked Esther, "Now what is your petition? It will be given you. And what is your request? Even up to half the kingdom it will be granted." Esther replied, "My petition and my request is this. If the king regards me with favor, and if it pleases the king to grant my petition and fulfill my request, let the king and Haman come tomorrow to a banquet I will prepare for them. Then I will answer the king's question." Haman went out that day happy and in high spirits. But when he saw Mordecai at the king's gate, and observed that he neither rose nor showed fear in his presence, he was filled with rage against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman restrained himself and went home. Calling together his friends and Zeresh, his wife, Haman boasted to them about his vast wealth, his many sons, and all the ways the king had honored him, and how he had elevated him above the other nobles and officials. "And that's not all," Haman added. "I'm the only person Queen Esther invited to accompany the king to the banquet she gave. And she has invited me along with the king tomorrow. But all this gives me no satisfaction as long as I see that Jew Mordecai sitting at the king's gate." His wife Zeresh and all his friends said to him, "Have a pole set up, reaching to the height of 50 cubits, and ask the king in the morning to have Mordecai impaled on it. Then go to the king to the banquet and enjoy yourself." This suggestion delighted Haman, and he had the pole set up.
Ano yung chunks natin for this?
We only have 2. Now, in verses 1 to 8, that's the first chunk. We're going to discover or learn that vulnerability is actually power. Kasi may gagawin si Esther dito, and she's going to take a lot of risks.
Okay.
The second half of our discussion tonight, we're going to talk about the brute exercise of power. Kasi dito ipapakita na ni Haman kung gaano siyang kagalit. And ang tanong, is that a real exercise of power? Yan ba ang totoong powerful person? Gusto ko muna kayong tanungin. Could you just describe to me someone who is powerful and what is the source of this person's power?
Does it have to be an actual person or can it be...
Oh, any superhero, I don't care.
Well, yung binabasa ko ngayong manga is My Hero Academia. Anyway, yung bida doon, yung source of power niya is realizing that he needs to rescue people.
Oh,
Doon nag-activate yung power niya na
as driven.
he's driven by responsibility na I have to save. Yun, I have to save. Doon lumalabas yung power niya na I need to save people.
Okay, tanong ko ulit kayo. If you had special powers, how would you use it? Any kind of special power.
Siyempre, to save the world.
Okay.
Pang world peace.
Ikaw, Ben.
Find a damsel in distress?
Oh, wow. Grabe. Hindi ko alam, medyo may romantiko ka palang... Okay, simulan na natin tong kwento. Now we're going to talk about how power is really all about vulnerability. Kasi may gagawin si Esther dito.
Ah.
Okay? Now, alam natin, God, again, was never mentioned in the book of Esther. Pero meron laging binibigay yung author ng mga cues to point to God's covert activity.
Okay.
How does our story begin in chapter 5? Kailan to nangyari ulit?
On the third day.
On the third day. Ano pa kaya ang significance ng third day? Whenever third day is mentioned in Scripture, what does that mean? Ano yung mga naaalala nyo?
Renewal? Is it?
Renewal?
Well, yung resurrection.
Resurrection happened on the third day. Ano yung nangyari kay Jonah?
He got spat out by the whale.
Nakalabas siya. He was liberated. Okay? Meron pa ba kayo natatandaang on the third day?
Genesis?
Genesis 22 verse 4. Can somebody turn to that?
On the third day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place from afar. And Abraham said to his young man, "Stay here with the donkey, and we will go over there and worship and come again to you."
Oh my.
Anong tinutukoy dito sa Genesis 22? Ito yung sacrifice kay Isaac. It happened on the third day of their journey. So ano nakikita yung pattern dyan sa third day?
It's at the brink of something major.
Okay. And you're actually expecting something very, really tragic or very bad to happen. Pero bigla na lang,
May reversal.
may reversal. Okay.
Which is a repeating element here.
Kaya
in
ito, yung mention dito of the third day in the book of Esther, chapter 5, the author is giving us a hint. This is a cue. Something great is going to happen because it's the third day. O ngayon, ano ang ginawa nga ni Esther on the third day?
She stood within eyesight of the king.
Pero bukod doon, meron siyang importanteng ginawa. Remember, katatapos lang niya mag-fast. Ano ba yung suot mo pag nag-fast ka?
Sackcloth.
Sackcloth. Pwede ka bang humarap sa king ng...
No, you look
Hindi
ugly.
pwede. Kaya anong ginawa ngayon ni Esther?
Put on her royal robes.
Wow, kailangan niya
naka-get up siya.
magpaganda. Kailangan talagang presentable and attractive to the king. Nagsa-strategize na siya. Ngayon, bakit kailangan tumayo lang siya dun sa harapan?
From last chapter, we find out na hindi basta-basta pwedeng lumapit sa king. Kasi kung bad mood siya, pwede kang patayin.
Hindi ka pasang pwedeng pumasok lang sa loob kasi, di ba? It's really risky unless you are summoned. Then you go to the king. Pero ang risk dito, if you go to the king's quarters, nakapasok ka, unless he puts his gold scepter on you, yun lang. Medyo hindi ka papatayin. Pero bawal talaga. So ito, strategy ni Esther para mapansin siya ng hari and hopefully, she will get invited. At nangyari nga ba?
Oh,
Yeah,
nangyari.
when he saw Queen Esther standing in the court, he was pleased with her and held out to her the golden scepter that was in his hand.
Okay. Kasi risky nga yung ginawa eh. Pero,
And the king said to her, "What is it, Queen Esther?"
kasi pinapasok siya. Tinanggap siya. And the fact that the scepter was held out to her, ibig sabihin, safe ka dito.
She was welcome.
Okay,
Yeah.
welcome ka. Safe ka dito sa lugar ko. At delikado rin to, yung ginawa ni Esther. So she is risking
Her life.
her life.
Okay.
Okay, now, ano ngayon ang sumunod na nangyari? Pinapasok siya ng king at tinanong.
What is your request? And even half my kingdom I will give to you.
Ano tong klaseng disposition na to ni King Xerxes kay Queen Esther?
He was really, really happy to see her.
Remember, ano yung nangyari? 30
30
days
days,
nang
oo.
hindi niya nakikita. Di ba medyo siguro nagsawa-sawa na. Pero ngayon biglang nakita niya and he was so delighted to see her. Biglang, uy, si Queen Esther ito. Ano kaya ito? Who is behind all this? Tatanungin mo rin eh. Di ba? So what is happening here?
Behind the scenes orchestration.
Of who's doing it?
Well, the Lord.
Ang galing kumilos ni Lord. Na? It is really risky for Esther to do that. And look, naging favorable pa yung ngayong nangyari kasi nagustuhan pa siya nung hari. Okay, dito natin makikita na she allowed herself to be very vulnerable. And that is how she used her influence and power. Making yourself vulnerable. Anong kabaligtaran nito sa mga nakikita natin?
Yung parang throwing your weight around type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, normally with power, you binabraso mo yung mga tao, di ba? But here, Esther's trying to get influence by putting herself out there at risk.
Okay. Saan nyo pa nakikita to? Have you seen some other person do this? Show this kind of example? Making himself or herself vulnerable?
Yeah, I remember the scene when Christ was brought to the Pharisees
Okay.
after he was betrayed.
Okay.
He could have used power, but he didn't.
But he did not.
Yeah.
Ano nga yung sinabi sa Philippians? He did not consider equality with God as a thing to be grasped.
That's right.
And this is how a truly powerful person behaves or relates to people. Not throwing your weight around, not bragging about your position, not scheming and use others to gain more, but a truly powerful person, if I may also say, someone who's secure.
That's right.
Diba? Someone who's also secure will be willing to just be vulnerable. Hindi ako natatakot. Haharapin ko to. And this is what Esther did. Humarap siya sa hari. And that was a big risk.
Right. Something interesting that I read is as a side note, in Bible chismis pare. Etong even up to half the kingdom, it will be given you. I read that this is
Is that literal?
it's not literal. I think it's like an expression.
Yeah.
Kasi ginamit din itong exact expression na to in Mark 6:23. This is Herod. And he promised her with an oath, whatever you ask, I will give you up to half my kingdom. So it's not literal. Parang sinabi mo yung parang may bisita ka, punta kayo sa restaurant, tapos order mo lahat sa menu, pare. Busog ka na.
Sagot kita.
Sagot kita, pare. Order mo lahat ng gusto mo.
Pero hindi naman totoo yun kasi hindi mo naman kayang ubusin lahat ng...
Oo. So it's an exaggeration.
Oo.
You know what he means, na eat whatever you want, pero it's not literal na order mo everything on the menu.
Right. Ito nga, babalikan natin yung 30 days nang hindi na nakikita ng hari and then all of a sudden, ganito yung kanyang tingin kay Esther.
And I mean, you wouldn't do that for somebody na you're not happy
Yeah,
with.
you wouldn't.
diba?
Yeah.
Pare, order mo lahat ng gusto
Yeah,
mo.
it was really a very positive disposition towards Queen Esther. Huh? Okay.
So that's verse 3.
Yeah. Merong request dito si Esther sa hari. Ano yung request ni Esther?
I'm actually surprised kasi I was expecting na, eto na, bobombahin na niya.
Actually, yung nga rin eh.
Tapos biglang,
Party muna tayo.
party muna tayo. Private party muna tayo.
Okay, pero parang nakakabitin, di ba? Masususpense ka eh.
So, I'll read it lang. This is verse 4. If it pleases the king, replied Esther, let the king, together with Haman, come today to a banquet I have prepared for him.
At kailan yung banquet?
Today.
Today. Ura-urada. Di ba?
Naka-prep na siya.
Naka-prep na to. Hindi ka
okay.
pwedeng...
That's interesting. Yeah.
Di ba? So, ibig sabihin, talagang planado tong ginagawa ni Esther. Now, this is how she really used her.
All in.
Oo, yung kanyang position sa empire. So, eto yung hiniling niya sa hari.
So, sabi ni King, bring Haman at once. So, we may do what Esther asks. Tapos, pagdating dun sa banquet, sabi ni King ay,
Ano nga ba yung request mo?
even up to half the kingdom, it will be granted. And ito na naman. I'm actually expecting, ito na.
Ito na. Alam,
And then,
sasabihin na niya.
tapos, my petition and my request is this. And let the king and Haman come tomorrow to the banquet Again,
Okay.
tomorrow again.
Pinitin pa. So hindi pa nangyari. She never presented the actual request.
Not yet.
Not
yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
Ibig
So,
sabihin, there is another banquet and then I promise I'll present to you my request.
so first a banquet, and then in the banquet, she requests
Another bank.
for another banquet.
Itong
Then
strat-
I will answer the king's
Ano
question.
tong strategy na to ni Esther?
You're trying to soften and take away the guard and get more favor from Xerxes.
Right, because Xerxes had not seen her for 30 days. She
So-
really does have to make an impression.
So bonding muna.
Bonding.
Oo.
Warm,
Oo.
icebreaker muna.
Oo, konting masamasahe muna dyan.
Hindi yung pwedeng diretso, don't kill the Jews.
Hindi agad gano'n.
Di diretso.
Okay.
I think another point as well is to also give a false security to Haman.
Oh yeah, kasi she would
Warm up na rin
invite...
niya si Haman eh.
Alam na
invites
niya eh.
Haman
Alam
eh.
na niya yung nangyari kay...
Mm.
O yung ginawa ni Haman sa kanila. About
Oo.
the edict.
Pero at this point,
Hindi alam ni Haman na Jew pala itong si Esther.
oo.
Kaya
So,
medyo minamasahe din niya.
ano to, hindi pa nakalabas lahat ng mga barahan niya.
Hindi
eh.
pa. Hindi
Kaya
pa.
she's giving Haman a little like false sense of security.
Right. Medyo pinabibilib muna niya si Haman. Let's see what happens. No? So this is...
Verse 9 na ba?
we go to verse 9. So apparently, tapos na yung unang banquet, lumabas ulit si Haman. How would you describe the disposition of Haman?
He was happy. He was
Oh.
glad of heart.
Kasi daw,
VIP?
VIP ako. Pero, ano yung nagpasira ng araw niya?
Kita niya si Mordecai.
Biglang nakita niya si Mordecai. Nasaan na naman? Sa gate. Okay, ano na naman ang hindi ginawa ni Mordecai?
He neither rose nor trembled before him.
Okay, ibig sabihin,
Hindi siya
dead ma.
pinansin.
Dead ma. Diba? And the response was...
He was pissed off.
Oh,
He was
galit na
filled
galit.
with rage.
Okay, so what is it that ticks him off?
If people don't acknowledge his position,
Yan. Diyan siya inis na inis. I want everybody to know who I am in this empire. Right?
Ba't hindi mo nilike yung post ko?
Oo. Diba? Siya na lang yung hindi nagla-like eh.
Ikaw lang di
Oo.
nag-like ng post ko,
Okay.
Mordecai.
Anong nakikita niyo sa character ni Haman dito? I mean, you are the second most powerful person in the empire. One person can easily tick you off. Just one person.
it's a pretty massive kind of insecurity,
Oh,
isn't it?
yes.
I mean, for the second most powerful person, he feels very trapped by this dude.
Diba?
Almost, I mean, he's not super nobody, but he's not second.
He's not
Medyo
really significant.
Malayo siya
Oh,
dun
nga
sa
eh, actually.
food chain. Malayo siya.
Insignificant.
Kaya ibig sabihin, even though he is the second most powerful person in the empire, even with all that power, tama ka, Ben. He's a very insecure person. That titles, positions will never fix that insecurity. Hindi niya kayang tanggapin na meron pang isa sa kingdom na to na hindi tatayo o luluhod to honor me. Kaya galit na galit siya at umuwi siya sa bahay na galit na galit. So ano ginawa ni Haman ngayon when he got home?
Tinawag niya yung mga kaibigan niya
Oo.
and Zeresh, his wife.
Yung wife niya. So nagpa-conference siya.
Pep talk.
Pep talk.
Well, self-pep talk in the presence of others.
Again, you're the second most powerful person in the empire. Where does he get his wisdom from? Will he get a balanced assessment by listening to these people?
No. Kasi parang,
He's inviting people who say the things that he wants to hear anyway.
yeah,
Yun lang.
exactly.
I don't want to hear anything that's not in agreement with what I have already believed in. Huwag niyo na akong kontrahin. Ang gusto ko na lang marinig ngayon ay...
Everything that's nice about me.
Yes.
Actually, I'll read yung 11 and 12. It's super funny. So, nagpa-conference siya. Haman boasted to them about his vast wealth, his many sons, and all the ways the king honored him, and how he had elevated him above the other nobles and officials. And wait, that's not all. I'm the only person Queen Esther invited to accompany the king to the banquet she gave, and she has invited me along with the king tomorrow. Yeah! I'm so cool, right? This is
Diba?
the me conference.
Right. So it's really all about him. Lahat nakasentro
Yeah,
sa
it
kanya.
is.
Pero eto, nakakatawa yung verse 13.
Yet all this is worth nothing to me, As long as I see Mordecai, the Jew, sitting at the king's gate.
Oh my.
Hindi ako kontento until malike ni Mordecai yung post ko.
Right. Yeah. This is a person who's probably always seeking affirmation.
Yeah.
I want validation all the time. And I want everyone to validate me. I want everyone to affirm me. Walang dapat hindi gagawa nito. Grabe, this is a very insecure person. What happens when you put a very insecure person in a very powerful position?
The power just corrupts the person.
Even more. Corrupt na nga, lalo pa siyang na-corrupt.
I heard this quote before by Abraham Lincoln. I'm probably paraphrasing it, but it's anybody can go through adversity, but if you want to know a man's true character, give him power.
Wow. So the character of the person will be exposed. It will be revealed, especially if you give him so much power.
So if you have insecurity and you're in a small position, when you get a bigger position and
Nandun
you
pa
still
rin
have
yung
the insecurity, it's just going to explode even bigger.
Get
Right.
magnified.
Okay. It really just gets magnified. Siyempre, hindi pa rin siya talaga masaya. Ano nga yung advice ng wife niya at ng friends ni Haman?
It's pretty wild.
Okay.
I mean, out of the blue, wife niya and friends niya says, let a gallows 50 cubits high be made, which is a huge stake. So that
50 cubits is 75 feet.
Wow, ang taas nun.
And let
Building yun, ah. Parang ang taas ng building.
and let
Sobrang exage talaga.
Mordecai be hanged upon it. So it is a huge barbecue stick, and Mordecai is supposed to be stuck at the top of it.
Impaled, yeah.
Oo.
Grabe, 75 feet, man. That's exage talaga siya, which matches his personality. I mean,
Can you imagine the wife and his friends to come up with
Bakit
something as
ganun?
gruesome as
Bakit
this?
ganun? Bakit ganun yung mga kaibigan niya? And I think if you're a dysfunctional person, you just attract more dysfunctional people and you surround yourself with
Yeah.
dysfunctional people.
Yeah, that's true.
Nagiging
Yeah.
codependent yung relationship nila. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. It's
And he
not
likes
like that.
to surround himself with people who just affirms him, diba?
That's right.
So they knew what Haman would have wanted to hear.
they knew what he wanted to hear and i-push pa natin times 10.
Okay. Now, in this chapter, we see two very powerful people, Esther and Haman.
Amen.
Anong kaibahan nilang dalawa? And what can you learn from these two people?
Esther takes the time to think. The fact that she did 2 feasts in order to get a bit more favor from Xerxes. And then she invites Haman within those 2 feasts so that Haman would also be caught off guard. Haman, on the other hand, very brash, very, ano yun?
Plan S yung tawag namin dyan, yung sugod lang.
Oh, sugod lang na parang, and it's just over the top.
Okay.
And jumping off from the previous chapter, Esther came from a fast, which is basically the state of helplessness.
Right.
She knows that she is in a position of power, pero yung attitude niya, she knows that she is helpless.
Right.
Except for the power of God.
And yet, see Haman, he doesn't see himself as helpless,
Oh.
or he wouldn't admit.
Well, or actually, si Haman naman, to give the guy credit, he is the second in command. He
Totoo naman
is
siyang powerful.
powerful. And yet, he looks like he's very trapped.
Yeah.
On this latter part, on the second half of chapter 5, it's really him being insecure and him being trapped by his own anger, his own rage. Kailangan pa niya gumawa ng press conference, ng me press conference.
Right.
And it ends with, all this gives me no satisfaction as long as I see that Jew Mordecai sitting
Totoo
at
yan.
the king's gate.
Isa pang nakita ko dyan kay Haman, he's a very powerful person, and I agree with you, Ben, when you said that he must have a lot of insecurity. Kaya ang response niya lagi, anger. When his power is being challenged, he responds with anger. Kasi pag nakikita niya si Mordecai, he suddenly becomes powerless. Because Mordecai would never recognize or acknowledge his power. Pero pag natayo na niya yung 75-foot pole and impale Mordecai dun sa pole na yon, somehow that expression of anger will immediately restore a semblance of power. Kaya delikado tong power na to eh.
Actually, something practical I remember from this, especially from seeing yung example ni Haman. Sabi sa akin before, if you want to drastically improve your life, there are 4 magic words that you should ask people. 4 magic words.
Okay, what are they?
What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me?
If you start asking that to people with an open heart, it is going to change your life. Kasi I realize that it's something that I think a lot of people struggle to ask. Actually, even within, to stop and say, I wonder if there's something that I'm doing that's wrong. And it's really hard to actually ask that, especially if you want to hear the honest answers. And of course, yung mga kausap mo, if they know that you are really genuine in asking this question, you'll find out stuff that you were blindsided to. And
Yeah.
then,
Right.
and if you do stuff about that, that will make you drastically better person. Upgrade yun. What's wrong with me? You should ask that to your family, ask that to your coworkers, ask that to your mentors. Grabe, nakakatakot siya tanungin.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is.
Di ba? Pero I say, man, I try to ask my wife that as frequently as I can. Kasi I think more than anybody else, she would know what's wrong with me. What's the most real part of me? My wife sees that. And so by me asking that, I know she's got my back. And so whatever she says is raw, is real, and is also said in love.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that yung upgrades ko, ang upgrades ko has been, ever since I started being more open to that,
The fast track.
na fast track. Yeah.
And in relation to, our topic about power, when we started, I asked you if you had special powers, anong gagawin mo dun sa power mo? After discussing chapter 5, what is now your response to that?
Tingin ko si Ben, damsel in distress pa rin.
Yeah, that doesn't really change. Yeah. But it's more of like the fact that you start to wield it a bit more carefully because I mean, like Gooch says that, world peace, help people in a sense, diba? But if you have so much power, you could be drunk to it. And how can you now tell what is good for people versus what you think you want for their good versus what is actually good for them?
Okay, inebriated with power. And that's really bad for you because then you forget about other people.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the things that I'm reminded of with this, with power, and actually with world peace, there's this anime title called Death Note. And it's basically, the premise is, there's a guy who gets a notebook. Whatever name he writes on that notebook, that person will die. And so, siya rin naman, yung intention niya, he also wanted world peace.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And so, parang hindi ko na kung gaano kadaming thousands of names yung sinulat niya doon. Pero yung intention niya, world peace din. Pero grabe yung method.
Pumapatay.
As in, sulat siya ng sulat. And then, it makes me think about the words of Jesus in the Sermon of the Mount. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. They shall be satisfied. But right after that, blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Ang ganda lang ng tandem na yun kasi, like, if it was a sermon, and I'm sure it was a long sermon, right after he says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, don't we all, in one way or the other, hunger for righteousness, hunger for justice?
Yes.
Yes.
And of course, the next step there is like, oh, let's take it. Oh, di ba? Parang ganun,
Yeah,
di ba?
you want to
And
act on it.
You want to act
Right.
on it, and chances are it might not be in a very merciful way.
Right.
Directly after, Jesus says, blessed are the merciful. It's like, I understand you are blessed if you have that hunger, but also you are blessed. You have that hunger and yet become merciful.
And the simplest way to define mercy is not giving you what you deserve. We deserve judgment, but God did not punish us. He showed His mercy instead.
Which we see in the character of Christ. He had all the power. He was not the second most powerful in the
He
land.
is.
He was
He is the most powerful.
That's
and
true.
yet came to save and to
Right.
serve and to
yeah.
give his life.
That's true.
Diba? Parang grabe, what type of king is this?
Right. And on
Yeah.
that note, let me just read to you Philippians chapter 2, starting from verse 6, and I will end with verse 8, just to show what you're describing. And I think every believer should have this kind of mindset. Who, being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross.
Boom.
Yeah.
And that's it. I think
That's it for
this.
chapter 5.
No need
of
for
Esther.
explanation on that one.
Sinabi na lahat dun eh.
And yeah, so that's it. I hope you guys got something from that. And yeah, we'll see you on chapter 6.
See ya.
See you guys.
See you.
You have listened to the UCM Interface Bible Study here at 702 DZAS FEBC Radio TV, Agapay ng Sambayanan. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, 702 DZAS FEBC Radio TV, and Facebook account, 702 DZAS FEBC Radio. Hear our full episodes on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, at marami pang iba. Join us at Union Church of Manila, Rada, Corno Legazpi, Makati City.